Hi everyone, Rachel here from the Five-ish Fangirls podcast, and once again we have for you a little bit of extra Squee. In this particular piece, we have some interviews I did recently with the cast and some of the cast and crew for a production of Jekyll and Hyde. It is going to be taking place in Bloomington, Indiana. It's being put on by Ivy Tech Community College in Bloomington. And we'll put all the information on where you can buy tickets and find the show times and everything in the show notes for this particular episode. So go to our website, the5ishfangirls.com, for that information. But what's interesting about this particular production is that this adaptation, because there's a lot of adaptations of the Jekyll and Hyde story out there. I went on Wikipedia the other day, and I think Wikipedia said there's like 127 or 72, a large number of just film adaptations, and that doesn't even include things like radio and books and things like that. So it's a story that's been told a lot, and is known, at least generally, to a good number of people. But this particular adaptation was written and originally written by Nicholas Briggs, who, if you're a Doctor Who fan, you know is the voice of the Daleks and the Cyberman, and does a lot of work with Big Finish. So that's kind of cool that it's got a Doctor Who-esque tie in it to it. So Nicholas Briggs wrote this, and as you'll find out in the interviews, that he actually also did the music for the productions when this originally premiered and toured in the United Kingdom. And so they are not only using his script here, but his music as well for their production. So that's very cool. So enjoy these interviews, and if you happen to be in the area while this production is going on, it runs from April 12th to April 20th. So if you're able to make it, definitely go and try and check this out. I was able to get a nice look and preview of the stage, and check out some of the costumes and props, and I caught some of one of their dress rehearsals. So I have not seen the entire thing, not completely polished, but what I did see made me very excited to go and see this in an actual production, full stop. So like I said, you can find information on how to get tickets and showtimes in the show notes on our website, which is the5ishfangirls.com, and enjoy. First up, we have my discussion with director of this production of Jekyll and Hyde, with friend of the show, Russell McGee. All right, well, I'm in the basement of the, what is this building called?
The Ivy Tech John Waldron Arts Center.
Good for him, whoever that is. I don't know who John Waldron is, but good for him.
You know, I don't either, even having done like theater for years here, but no.
It's named after somebody who gave Ivy Tech a lot of money.
Well, it was actually, we named this before Ivy Tech bought it from it used to be the old like firehouse and everything. That's why, there's big doors over there.
Someone knew who did something or had enough money to get their name on a building.
Yep.
Which, yep.
Yeah.
So. I don't know anything about Bloomington, so. Up in Indy, it's all Eskenazi. So.
Trying to think.
And Lilly. Everything's Eskenazi
Lilly, of
and
course.
Lilly in Indianapolis. So,
Yes.
any hoozles. So, I'm in this kind of creepy basement in Bloomington with a friend of the show, Russell.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. Tearing you away from your directorly duties of production that's
Well, we scheduled
opening
it-
this week
Yes.
as we're recording this.
Yeah. No pressure.
No pressure at all.
No.
No pressure at
No.
all. So, so where do you want to start? I guess why would this particular production? So, I mean, there's so many different versions of the Jekyll and Hyde story
There are.
out there. Obviously, this one's got a name connected to it that a lot of us are familiar with.
What? Nick Briggs?
Nick Briggs? Never
What?
heard of him.
Name drop. Nick
Name drop.
Briggs?
Name drop.
No. Dialects ever. Actually, it all came about in 2015. The first production I was working on for Big Finish.
Mm-hmm.
I was sound designing and Nick was directing. And he was telling me that he was working on a new adaptation of Jekyll and Hyde. And then we just got to talking and told him that it's actually a story that I've always had a fascination with.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just been something that's stuck in the back of my mind since then. I originally tried to get the Phoenix to do it up in Indy, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so, I've been kicking it around for a couple of years now where I wanted to be able to direct this. I actually have directed a version of Jekyll and Hyde before, but again, Nick Briggs and getting to work on this. And the other really cool thing is his adaptation's a lot closer to the novella, so there's no love story tacked on. It's more about like the mystery as far as what's going on with Jekyll and finding out why he has taken Edward Hyde into his confidence.
Right.
And so the audience obviously is going to know the whole thing there, but then it's the fun of seeing how the mystery unravels through the course of the play and how they finally figure out what happened.
Right. The psychological part of it
Right.
is
Yeah.
the fun part of it. Like,
Yeah, and you met one of the Hydes, and
yeah.
that was something else that actually came out of just messing around in the callbacks, where an female actor asked to go ahead and read for Hyde, and then one of my friends who has worked with me in the past, he's like, oh yeah, Russell has no problem gender bending roles. And so then we were just messing around, and I was like, wait a minute, what if we double up the voices and see how that plays out? And so then I grouped a couple of different actors together and paired them off and had them go out and read it. And the producer came in, heard what we were doing. His, I think, exact quote was, one, that it was disturbing, and two, that it was very difficult to watch. So I was like, okay, now we've got something.
Yeah, I would say with this particular story, those are compliments.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If this is a production of Cats or something, that probably wouldn't be
Right.
a compliment. Although I've seen Cats, some of it is a little disturbing, but.
I don't know if I should admit this, but I like the music to Cats, so yeah.
Don't ask me to sing.
Don't ask me to sing either.
Okay. So this is I read the press release that you sent.
Mhm.
And the press release said that this is technically the U.S. debut for this particular adaptation.
Yeah, so I'm hoping some Whovians might be interested in coming down and checking it out, because it's not been outside of the UK yet. It premiered in the Royal Theatre in Nottingham, and then went on a national tour of the UK and did really well there. But I looked, and as far as I know, no one else has done it here before. So yes, this is the first time it's being performed stateside.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
And Nick, give him a plug just from the standpoint that he has been really gracious, and like I already told you earlier, he is allowing us to use his original music that he composed for that initial production. Plus, on top of that, he helped out, since it is a student production, and like gave them a really reduced rate as far as the rights and everything. So he's been super, super cool, and really worked with Paul as far as being able to produce it here.
That's cool. Helps to know people. Good to have friends. Who know people. So, well, that's very, very cool. So, and you're doing what, like dress rehearsals or? Yeah.
We had Q to Q on Saturday, and then yesterday was the first like full tech with costumes, props, the 9 yards, and still working out kinks, of course.
Always.
But we have tonight and tomorrow to work things out, and then we open on Friday.
And it runs till the
20th. Right. If it does well, there's a chance we may add on like a matinee type of thing, but that's like the only thing we've talked about so far.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But still, I mean,
yeah.
That's a good run. That gives people plenty of time to come down and see it, or come up, I guess, depending on where you're coming from. For me, it's down.
That's true. Yeah. They could be coming east, west.
Yes. Come over to Bloomington. Don't mind the construction on 37. And
there's lots of really cool places to eat here too.
Yes. Putting in a plug here, Mother Bear's Pizza.
Very true. Very true.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor of the show at all.
Yeah. Yet. Mother Bear's Pizza. We will take your money. I'm just saying. Or Nicholas Briggs. I'll take your money too. Dear Big Finish. No, I'm just kidding. So, all right, cool. So cool. I'll let you get back to doing paperwork, it sounds like, for that.
Paperwork.
Among other things.
And
we'll chat with some of the rest of the cast and the crew.
Yeah. Cool. I'll go send some people your way.
All right.
Thank you, Rachel.
Mm-hmm. Next up is my discussion with Emily, who plays Dr. Hastie Lanyon, and Josh, who plays Mr. Gabriel Utterson. Let's start with, is this your first production here? This is a student production.
Yeah, with Ivy Tech, this is my first production, but I am also an online adjunct for Ivy Tech for theater appreciation and music appreciation.
Oh, okay.
But yes, as an actor in one of their productions, this is my first time.
Cool.
For me, it's not my first time here at the Rose Fire Bay, but and I actually graduated here at IU for theater, and I think it might be my first Ivy Tech production. But I am no stranger to this theater space, because it's one of my favorite spaces that I've actually worked in and done a lot of performances in.
I've done a couple of things here too, and I'll be doing another thing coming up in August. But yeah,
I like the space. It's very cozy.
I do too.
Cozy is a really good word for it.
It's cramped as all get out backstage, but
all the best theaters are there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, you go backstage and you're like doing a quick change. And, you're just like bending over, doing some contortionist. Like, don't mind me, I'm just in my underwear, changing my pants.
Well, when you're in theater, you get to a point where you
just don't care.
You don't care anymore.
Yeah.
If you have to change in front of someone, it's no big deal.
Yeah. No shame.
And I have to remember, like, when I'm around my friends who aren't in theater, like, if I'm just like getting ready for something, I have to make sure I'm not changing in front of them. Oh yeah, you're not used to seeing partially nude people.
Like, yeah, it's like I did theater, and junior high and high school, and then I did color guard as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
You get used to it.
you get used to just like change. You know, you get really adept at like changing in a bus seat
yeah.
on a school bus.
Yeah.
Also, getting changed very quickly.
Yes.
My friends were like, "Oh, you're changed."
Figuring
already."
out
I was like,
how to figure out how to do eyeliner while the bus is going down the
sure.
interstate.
Yeah. All those important life lessons.
Yes. It's like eyeliner and spandex. That was my life for 4 years. That's so much fun. So I feel your pain.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore, but I understand. Memories.
I always wanted to do guard in high school, and I never did.
Yeah.
I tried to twirl a rifle once, and it went badly. And so
Yeah.
I was like, no, we're good.
I wasn't allowed to be in guard because I was a guy. Even though I showed up with quite a few of the girls.
Yeah.
Because
The atmosphere changed like my senior year. They started to let guys into the guard line.
Okay.
So, and now it's like nobody bats an eye to see a dude in spandex
Sure.
twirling the flag right with a bunch of girls.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, back to this production. We can all swap stories. Where's the strangest place you've ever changed your pants? As Russell and I were talking about, obviously there's the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is well known to everybody, mostly, I would think. It's very common.
it's a common idea.
It's common, yeah, it's a very common idea, that there's a duality to someone's personality. In this case, it's and not just another personality, it's practically a whole other person.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But this particular production, this particular version done by Nicholas Briggs is, as far as we know, this is the first U.S. production of it. So when you found out about it and became part of the production, how familiar were you with just kind of the story in general, and how does this version compare to what you had in your head as far as other iterations of this particular story?
Yeah.
So in my experience of the film adaptations and the theater pieces I've seen of Jekyll and Hyde, it's usually from the perspective of Dr. Jekyll, usually from what I've seen, and so it's really interesting to be on the outside and only seeing like the hints of like the madness and the craze like transformation. And while everyone knows who Jekyll is and that Hyde and Jekyll are the same person, and having to like suspend that disbelief of the character, it's really interesting to see the characters, the other people in the play, kind of interact with all these like hidden clues and this intrigue of like something's not quite right, but it can't be what we think it is because that's not possible, and it's just it's really fascinating to see the connection between like Dr. Lanyon and Dr. Jekyll, and how that splits apart, and how that's one of the first clues. And then you see Gabriel Utterson, who's good friends with both of them, kind of like trying to mitigate like the breaking of their friendship, all while trying to protect his friend Dr. Jekyll's name, because he doesn't want Dr. Jekyll to be tied up with Mr. Hyde, because Mr. Hyde does all these insane, hideous, abominable things. And so like you have this tenderness from Mr. Utterson trying to protect his friend, all while Dr. Jekyll is trying to conceal something. I feel like Utterson like has that like something's not quite right, but he doesn't know how to go about it. And it's really fascinating to see like that portrayal in this play versus all the other ones I've seen, where it's very, very apparent what's happening. And this one's a little bit more like kept under wraps.
Yeah.
And
It's almost like a whodunit.
Yeah, but the audience is in on the secret.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't know the story?
Right.
And so they're just watching everybody on stage catch up.
Yeah.
And there's there's a suspense to that too, I think, as an audience member to watch that and go, but I know what it is and I can't tell you.
Yeah.
And so you have that kind of...
It's like every horror movie you ever watch.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the murder's in the basement.
Yeah.
And the person's headed to the basement
go
stairs.
there.
You're like, don't go down the stairs!
No, that's exactly
Well, it's like the thing where like even watching something you've never seen before, and you know, like when you see someone's like, oh, you're the bad guy. I know you're the bad guy.
And then you're tracing that.
And you're trying to find every single like small clue because all the other characters are missing every single opportunity to catch it. And you're, as an audience member, you're like, but it's right there.
There's
and
something
you know it's
really
there.
delicious about that too. Like to know and just to watch everybody else
kind
scramble.
of flounder around, kind of like, it's not necessarily comical, but it's very like, oh no, I'm so sorry that you missed that. It's really fun.
It sort of makes you feel for everybody involved.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you missing that? You dummy! But then that would ruin all the fun.
Yeah.
They figured it out in the first 5 minutes, so time for dinner. So,
Are we allowed to talk about the portrayal of Hyde in this? I'm guessing that's fine.
Well, they're interviewing.
Yeah. So one thing that
that
really
depends on how spoilery you want to
no, it's not necessarily.
No, I mean.
Well, he was talking about how they when they were doing the auditions. Putting the multiple voices.
That was really fun.
Yeah, and coming in as Gabriel Utterson, like the first time I rehearsed with them, like there was this moment where I'm talking to Hyde, but there's two people, but like there's like just within 30 seconds they were the same person.
Oh yeah.
And, like, hearing their voice in like stereo around
Well, and they've
me.
worked so hard to do that. Like they worked
like,
really hard to like be like, how does this work? But I actually at the callback read with them, and I think we were the first trio of people to try like, what is it with two voices? And like we did, and everybody's like, yep. Okay.
And there's a scene where they're standing behind me, kind of like in this memory, and they're like breathing in both ears, and it's just like this, like it's this very unearthly, very out of body experience because you feel gross, and they do such a good job of just unsettling.
Well, they're one person, but they both bring something very different.
Oh yeah.
And so like it's this weird. Yeah.
It's a really amazing energy, but it's like as an audience member, I'm watching that, I can just imagine like the gross.
Right. Yeah, no, I love it. I love it.
I'm fascinated now. Like I can kind of picture what it is you guys are describing the way he was describing it.
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of like
You should have them do like one or two.
Yeah, I was like, when does rehearsal start?
Oh yeah.
I may need to stay for a little bit.
The other thing I really like about Nick Briggs' script is kind of his shifting of time. I mean, there's stories within stories. There's like weird flashbacks. So a lot of it too, especially when we sat down to do table work, was like piecing together like, okay, when did this happen? And so there's this weird way of, Utterson's telling the story to Newcomen. And so through that, there's like flashbacks and there's like weird other things. And so you're also trying to piece together a timeline. There's a lot of stuff that happens with the handing off of letters and all kinds of things too, that I think really build up the suspense nicely. And his use of sound, I mean, which isn't surprising with his work on Big Finish.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, it's very, to me, it's very much somebody who is rooted in audio drama in the best, took all the best parts of it and was like, great, here's a stage play, and it works really well.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And Russell and I were talking about it the other day. I said, there's just so many opportunities to build sound into this, and I think a lot of times finding a really good sound designer to do that, or to go, oh my gosh, this is so much fun, look at all this fun stuff I get to play with. You don't always get that opportunity in live theater. It sort of frequently does get glossed over. So
kind of going off, you were talking about like the play of time in these plays. It's fascinating.
Oh yeah.
Every single time that I've had the chance to sit down with the actors and do more and more, like we keep exploring more things and finding new interesting like moments where like you have to remember that your character, while they're telling a story, they're also telling a story within that story, and making sure you're not letting yourself know something beforehand, and it's really fascinating.
And I can't remember what the dots were that I connected like last week, and I was like, I should have figured that out sooner, but okay. Like, so there's still stuff that like I'm still kind of going, oh, okay.
That's the sign of a really well thought out and written story, whether it's a play or a movie or a TV show or whatever. If it's one, entertaining enough that you want to consume it more than once,
right?
But if you pick up
something every time you experience it.
Yeah.
I get a kick out of stuff like, I mean, there's movies that I've seen so many times and can quote them from beginning to end, but every now and then I'll pick up something that I never caught before.
It's why I watch Twin Peaks every year.
Yeah.
At least once a year.
Yeah.
The really cool thing is he's made like this amazing sandwich, if that makes sense. It's like at the very beginning of Act 1, it's a lot of flashbacks, and we're kind of in this present where like things are happening in the present timeline, and like, we're getting like progressive action.
It is,
Then Act 2 starts off, and we're in the present time. We're getting active action as well, and then for maybe like the last portion of it, it is flashback again, and it's this like it's this beautiful. It's the beautiful sandwich of like backstory memories, present backstory memories, and then the final moment. It's just like it's delicious.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, I feel like the way he is able to play with time is really great because it's also still very clear that it's understandable. So I think a lot of times when you see things like this, it becomes confusing to the audience. But I think it's the fact that his writing is very clear and concise, and the fact that he is telling a story to an audience that already knows the story, it becomes this really clever piece. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Exciting. Now I'm like, I want to see it.
You should.
Opens this Friday.
Yes, it does.
Couple more runs.
And you can't see their eyeballs just got like 5 times bigger. Like, holy crap, why is it Tuesday already?
It'll be ready.
Yeah.
It just feels like Tuesday at Tech Week.
It feels like I just picked this thing up like a week ago or something.
Oh, what? What? No, because you did.
There was an unfortunate thing where our lead had to unfortunately step down, and I got a phone call from Russell saying, hey, like, we're about 12 days out from the opening. Is there any way I could convince you to come in and play Mr. Utterson? And I've been so
I
warmly
enjoyed that he
welcomed.
kind of glossed over the size of the role. Because he's like, oh, and I was like, Russell, I was like, did you tell him how big the role? Well, I mean, I did now. I'm like,
and I've been so warmly welcomed by all the cast and the crew, and they've really made the growing pains of memorizing something so quickly.
I don't know
much
how you
easier.
memorize stuff so quickly, Josh. It's ridiculous.
So within the last week, I've gotten
Shove it into his head.
88 pages of script in my head.
It's a lot.
And blocking.
Yeah.
And so like that would not have been possible without like incredible cast members like Em, and you'll meet the other crew of weirdos.
Yes.
Yeah. Weirdos in theater? No.
No, never happens.
Never. Not at all. So. Well, I will let you guys get back to
Alrighty.
Awesome. I gotta
all
go.
the things you have to do.
I have to go throw on my face and look at my lens once more.
Thank you so much for coming on in.
You're welcome.
And it's nice to finally meet you.
Next up, I chat with Heidi, who plays Mr. Edward Hyde, Joel, who plays Dr. Henry Jekyll, and Tyler, who also plays Mr. Edward Hyde. And you'll find out through the discussion how exactly there are 2 Mr. Hydes.
Let's start with, I guess the same questions I did with Emily and Josh.
Oh, are we being recorded now?
Yes, you are.
Oh, no. That's great.
Clear out those cords. Is this your first production here at with this group, this facility?
So I have been a part of Ivy Tech Student Productions for about 2 years now. In this, I'm Dr. Jekyll. What was the last thing? Oh yeah, Anonymous, which we did last year by Naomi Azuka. I did sound design for that, and then before that we did All in the Timing, which I was acting in.
Cool.
This is my second performance at Ivy Tech. My first one was last year. I was Ed and the Moose in Evil Dead the Musical.
The moose.
You're the one who had your hand in the moose?
Oh, you bet.
Oh, that's great. Excellent job.
I began acting at Ivy Tech Student Productions in 2012. I was in Waiting for Lefty. I played Riley. I played Jonas in The Giver. I was in Macbeth, King Oedipus.
She said the name.
I've been in a lot. Yeah. I said Macbeth. No. But yeah.
McDonald's.
Yeah, McDonald's. That's how it's pronounced. But yeah, I've been in a bunch of them.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay, cool. So, not your first rodeos then.
No, this not.
One of the things that we got to talking about with the previous group was obviously the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's very familiar to a lot of people. This particular iteration of it, written by Nicholas Briggs, I'm going to drop his name as many times as possible on the off chance he hears this.
What did you say the name was again?
Nicholas Briggs, huge Doctor Who fan, this is the first U.S. production of this particular adaptation. So once you got your parts and got into the script and started the planning process and all that, and getting into the nitty-gritty of everything, if you had any previous experience with an adaptation, movie or another stage production or whatever of this particular story, how does this one compare to other adaptations that you're familiar with?
This one is, I'm sure it's much closer to the novella than a lot of the other ones. The biggest thing is usually what people do is they make the story follow Dr. Jekyll. Mm-hmm. But this production follows his lawyer, Gabriel Utterson, discovering what's going on. Yeah. And so Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde are like the insidious characters that drive the plot, and they're in the background even though they're very present, but they're not the main protagonists. So they're just the activators of the world rather than, the person you follow and you're like, oh, let's spend the entire time with them. Yeah.
And playing, Dr. Jekyll, mm-hmm. is I guess figuring out your portrayal of the character. How different was it not technically being the, star, the focus of the story as it is in other adaptations where he is the person that they follow because they're following the lawyer instead?
Yeah, well, it makes some things easier and it makes some things harder. More of what goes on for me are behind the scenes or in between scenes, mm-hmm. Which makes it harder because then I don't have an arc that I get to follow as thoroughly. I have to do a lot more outside research. However, one of the exciting things about it is I get to change quite a bit between scenes. So I begin a scene, I end it, and then in my brain I go through all of that stuff that I go through. And then I start the next scene in a completely different place than the audience expects. Oh, okay. Which is really freeing because then I can be what I need to be without feeling like the story is on my back. So it's very nice.
That's very cool. Well, and then you two have a very unique way about portraying your characters, because instead of having a Dr. Jekyll and a Mr. Hyde, you have two of you acting as one, and I can kind of visualize in my head how it works. I'd be really interested to see, if you get to doing something during rehearsal to see, but the previous group, they were talking about once you guys figured out how to make that dual people playing essentially a single role work, just like almost immediately, just how creepy and scary and just like perfect that portrayal is, and how like you give them chills and how
It never gets old. It's a lot of fun every time.
Yeah. No. But when they approach you with the idea, mm-hmm. of having two voices for this one character, were you immediately like, yeah, let's try it, or were you like, are you crazy? How are we gonna make this work?
At first, I was like, I don't understand. Like, wait, you want us to say it like in sync with each? I just didn't understand. And then we practiced it together, and Emily looked at us and said that was creepy as hell. So I was like, wow, maybe this could actually work.
Yeah, it was interesting when we did it in the callbacks. Initially, we were paired together, and it was very cool how our voices just kind of defaulted to a very harmonious thing where we're both had our own registers of creepiness that just blended so well.
Yeah, somehow we said things like the same way, and I don't know how we did that, honestly.
Yeah, because I mean, you can have multiple people reading off the exact same set of words, but people are going to say them differently.
Somehow
even the words themselves are exactly the same.
So we were just on the same wavelength that day, I guess.
Yeah, we really were.
It was meant to be. So, did you immediately, once they came to you with the idea and you're like, yeah, sure, let's try it. Did you have to try different ways, or did you just kind of fall into? Were there different ideas on how it could work, and you had to work through different techniques, or did it just kind of happen organically? Or
yeah, well, we initially started just saying every single line together and kind of working through how we would say them as a unit. And then as we got towards the middle of the process, we kind of started seeing, well, let's see what happens if just you say this line while I'm skulking in the background, and then I can jump up behind them and say the next part of that line.
Okay.
And after we started experimenting with that, it gave a whole new layer to how creepy we could be. It was really cool to play with that. Because we initially split it up by 7 deadly sins. Russell had the great idea to look into that and see what Hyde sort of embodies throughout the show. And once we figured that out, Heidi kind of took half of them, and then I took the other half, and we kind of just split the lines according to, well, what sin is he provoking in this line?
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Very cool. So, I forgot what I was going to say. I hate when that happens. Right? I don't even have a script to refer to. I know one of the things that I was talking about with Russell was the fact that along with using Nicholas Briggs' script, you're welcome, Nick, name drop again, that he's also allowing the production to use his music to go with it, and obviously because this is a straight play, not a musical, things, you've got incidental music for transitions and that sort of thing, and then all the rest of the sound design that goes with it. How have you found incorporating existing music that came with it, along with coming up with the sound design to work with your character portrayal as Dr. Jekyll, because his portrayal is, the focus on him is different compared to other adaptations, and then for you two, because of the duality of you two having to work in tandem with each other with the dual voices.
Well, Nicholas wrote a really tight script, and I think during the first read through we did hear like 30 seconds of one of the pieces, but for the most part we didn't really know exactly what it was going to be. But we worked, doing scenes and practicing and stuff like that. And then last Saturday when we brought in the sound design, he's composed this like ambient, like ethereal kind of, sound. So it just like fell right into place.
Yeah.
And it brings every scene to like the next level, and it works really well. Like it's really great. I couldn't ask for more from the sound design.
Yeah. And it helps with the getting you into the mindset
Oh,
for
yeah,
the
The
scenes.
mystery of it all.
Yeah,
makes
like-
it, more disturbing.
Because you start a scene and you drive your own emotion and you
Yeah.
work with the other actors. But then when you're starting a scene with the music
Yeah.
first, you're like, oh, it's doing some of my job. But you don't do less.
Yeah.
It just lifts you up even higher.
It kind of made me feel more evil. It really helped me, to be honest.
I have to agree with her.
It almost feels like this production should be not. It should be like October or something.
Oh, I
Yeah,
know. I was saying the same
Halloween.
thing.
It
We
should be a
always
fall
like
production.
sing "This is Halloween"
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, it's like let's all go see this production of
Yeah, exactly.
and then let's all go to a haunted house and get our pants scared
exactly.
off of us even
Exactly.
more.
Bringing Halloween a little bit early.
Yeah, I know some people that they would not have a problem with that.
No.
I have people that live for Halloween all year round.
Oh yeah,
They are totally down with the Halloween. So
totally.
cool, very cool. So are you excited? I'm
Oh,
sure.
Oh man, yeah.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah.
What, 3 days? 2 days?
We don't need to talk about
Okay,
that.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I mean,
It's
gonna
coming up
happen.
soon.
It's similar reaction, but slightly different than your cohorts. Their eyes got the size of like the car hubcaps. I was like, it's too bad this is audio. You can't see the eyes just like thinking about it. Tuesday, we open Friday!
No.
This is more like looks of like, well, it is what it is. And then like, I'm going to vomit. Yeah.
You just
I
gotta
don't want to
keep
think
going.
about what day it
Gotta drink
is.
your tea and keep rocking on.
Yep. As one should.
Yeah.
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 That's what the British do. Just keep calm and carry on and drink some tea.
That's all you can do.
Yep.
That's all you can do.
So, well, I will let you guys get back to whatever it is you need to be
Cool.
doing.
Thank
So
you so much.
you've got a face. I'm
Yeah.
sure you guys have faces that
Yep.
need to
Somewhere.
be applied. So, and I won't say what you're not supposed to say to actors. So break the lane.
Nothing wrong with that.
And last but certainly not least, we have my chat with Chancellor, who is the sound designer, Ian, who plays the detective constable, and Brynn, who plays Paterson.
Cool. All right. So starting off, is this your first production with Ivy Tech, or have you been doing this for a while?
This is my first production with Ivy Tech and theater in general.
Cool.
Yeah, same for me. This is my first production, anything, audition, anything like that.
Cool.
This is my first Ivy Tech show. I'm a theater and drama major at IU.
Okay.
I've done most of my stuff there. This is my first time over here.
Cool. All right. So, the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde has obviously been around for quite a while. Most people are familiar, at least a little bit, with it. They know the mad scientist, dual personality, evil, crazy guy that does really bad things. But this particular adaptation is new, at least to the United States. It's actually fairly new in general. It's only been around a handful of years, but this particular version, written by Nicholas Briggs, I keep saying I'm going to drop his name in here as many times as possible, this is the first production in the United States, as far as anybody is aware. So once you got your part in the show and really got into the script and figuring out staging and all that fun stuff, how does this production compare, or this adaptation compare, to any that you were familiar with beforehand, be it film or another stage production, or even if you read the book,
Yeah.
at some point?
I had never read the book. I'm familiar with the musical.
Okay.
And then there's a Looney Tunes one, right? There's a
I'm sure
there's a
there
Looney
is.
Tunes version too that I remember very distinctly from my childhood. So it's a little unique from that in a way. No, just kidding.
There's a lot less rabbits in this one and ducks.
Right. I was more familiar with it as an idea of a story.
Yeah, more of a cultural.
Right, but
thing.
I worked with Russell, our director, Russell McGee, on some radio drama stuff last semester, and he was like, "You like Doctor Who, don't you?" And I was like, "Yes, I like Doctor Who very much." And he was like, "Come audition for this adaptation." And I haven't read the book, but you can really see the language of the book, and you don't have to read the book to know that it's very faithful.
Okay.
Through the language and the story and the structure, you're like, oh, this is faithful to the original story, but still 2 hours long instead of however long the book is.
Yeah. I'm not sure how long the book is. What about you two?
From a sound standpoint, I worked on several short films, and I've never done sound design for a theater show, but I've been to plays and experienced what that's like. And most plays are a very visual story.
Mm-hmm.
For where a lot of the thought process goes into set design and taking the audience to that world through that sense.
Mm-hmm.
I feel, and I have to attribute Nicholas Briggs to a lot of the sound of this show, because most of everything that I have came from him.
Yeah.
And with his work on Doctor Who, and he's used to creating his own sounds and producing his own oral space. And it's just different from what I've experienced. He's kind of opened up the world to not only visually transporting people to another area, another world of storytelling, but also including audio into the theater story, to theater production now.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's different and it's weird, and I feel at times I keep questioning is this gonna work? Is this gonna sound right? Are people gonna believe that this is what this space is supposed to sound like?
Mm-hmm.
With film you can trick people a little bit easier, but I feel there's a lot more vulnerability on a stage and doing it live, as opposed to everything's plotted out and controllable with multiple takes of a film. So yeah, I feel it's very different, and I have to attribute Nick Briggs for making it such an interesting show.
Yeah, the show's, as far as well as everything these guys have said, it seemed special to me because it hit on all the classic Jekyll and Hyde things that we kind of all know, and then as well as the nitty-gritty Nick Briggs music hits specifically the German expressions with the makeup, but it also adds a bit of creativity and leeway to work with as far as what we do with the Hydes and the people playing the Hydes. So that was just really special to me and just really interesting and fun to watch happen.
Yeah, from everybody I've talked to, them coming up with the idea of having the two voices for Hyde, and having essentially two people play one part, I guess it seemed kind of crazy at first, but once they figured it out, it was just one of those things that's this makes absolute complete sense, and just brings the entire production to this whole new level of eeriness and creepiness, because the way that the story is written, the focus is not on Jekyll. He's not the focal point of the story, and everyone around him is completely clueless to what's going on, and they're having to figure it out. It's more through the lens of his lawyer instead. So that change in focus, plus adding Nicholas Briggs's sound that he had already developed to go with it, the music that's being used, plus the decisions that your producer and director have made as far as the casting, doing the dual Hydes. It seems like it's found a way to take a story that a lot of people know and turn it on its head.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's crazy because like her, I've never read any of like the Jekyll and Hyde, and actually I think I only know the story because of Scooby Doo. I think that's the only reason I know.
He didn't say that. He didn't say that. I was kidding.
That's the only way I think I know about the story. Like other than that, I've never seen like a musical or a play or any other like rendition of the story.
Yeah.
Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
But I've never read anything. But I know like the basics, and like the way they're doing with Hyde now is like really turning it upside down. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So, where was I going with that? Lost my train of thought. Yeah, I guess you specifically, you being the sound person, I guess you do have a different.
It's a little bit of a different spectacle.
Different way of experiencing everything. Have you found working in what you need to do as a sound person, being handed, a bunch of music that was already ready to go, essentially, it was already made essentially for this production.
In essence, it makes my job, easier, but also it feels like there's some like strings attached, it like I feel like I could have gone back and like changed and listen and would have been like even better if I would have done this and changed like musical cues and stuff that Nick Briggs had done himself, but every time I like listen back and like everything he made is all like pretty thematically tied together, and I feel like if anything, if I were to like, sound effects versus music are two different things. So the sound effects, it's kind of open world. I can do whatever I feel like, and that's kind of what I've shot for. But the music, I just couldn't like bring myself to like mess with that in any way. Because it just I feel like it just fits. Everything just fits together with that, and moving that stuff around and bringing things back and playing this the same song, in a different part, and it ties more of the story together. But yeah, it's definitely been like a different like viewpoint, opposed to these guys. I'm paying attention to every little detail in terms of like how they're moving and like timing things up to like a specific movement, or like as soon as one of them starts to walk off stage, like that's my cue, I gotta play it then, and like if it's off, it's gonna throw the whole scene down a loop and it's gonna feel weird. So it's like from a sound standpoint, it's definitely just different viewing the show.
So, any last words, thoughts?
Something I think is really interesting about the adaptation that we're doing is that as a British person, he has adapted it in a way linguistically that's a bit more British. So there's been some fun translations of that.
Yeah.
Like I'm a bit character. Yeah. I've 6 lines, and it's pretty obvious in the writing that I'm supposed to be, like Cockney.
Yeah.
And but this production is not using British accents.
Yeah.
So we got to translate like, well, Cockney in the UK, what does that mean in America? And I'm not gonna give away my only real strong character trait. But like, it is very interesting to see how that UK to the US translation goes, and I think it goes quite successfully.
Yeah. I'm totally down for a British accent, but it wouldn't be very good.
Not mine.
Yeah.
Getting a room. How many of us are there? 20? Something like 20 of us. Getting all 20 of us to be from the same place in the UK.
Just have visions of people going, that's not right. You know, Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins. Like, that's wrong. That's totally not right. Bad
like
British.
Endearingly terrible.
Yes. We love Dick Van Dyke.
The worst, but in the best way.
Bert forever. So. No, I didn't even think of that. The fact that it's written by a Brit and started in the UK, and I believe the story itself is British too. It's set in London, so that there would be possible slang, not only because of the time period that at least the original story is set in. I'm judging by the set, that it's set in a very similar time period. Mm-hmm. There's no electric lights or anything. It seems to be, but I didn't think about the possible slang, just changes in words, for basic things between here and the UK, and how that would need to be adjusted for the audience, especially here in Indiana. Mm-hmm. So it's like I can totally understand someone's British accent and a lot of British language. I watch a lot of British television, but not everybody is like us crazy people that have the BBC on 24/7. So, well, that's very cool. So, have fun. I was reminiscing thinking about my days in the theater, changing in tight spaces and figuring out how to do your makeup.
Plenty of that.
Figuring out how to do your makeup while other people are trying to share. 50 people trying to share the same 2-inch mirror, and
I can't relate.
You're the tech guy. You're like I just come in jeans and a t-shirt and you're ready to go. So.
I gotta wear all black,
Yeah.
So.
So, but no, I
nobody knows I'm there.
Yeah. But they'll hear the results of your presence.
Yeah, at the end of the night, there'll be like 2 people, but wow, that sounded great.
But thank you very much. So, but no, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I look forward to seeing the production as a whole. I'm very excited now. I was excited before, but now I'm really excited. So I'm excited to pick up on the things that I've been told and heard about from you guys. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. You can find more episodes and information at the5ishfangirls.com. Any and all books, movies, games, and any other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by the respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied. If you wish to support the show, the easiest way is to leave us a rating and review on iTunes. More ratings and reviews will make it easier for others to find the show. If you wish to support us monetarily, you can do so at patreon.com/5ishfangirlspodcast. All money goes towards fees and equipment to keep the show going. For official Five-ish Fangirls merchandise, visit redbubble.com/people/5ishfangirls. We love hearing from our listeners and encourage feedback. You can email us at fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/5ishfangirls. Thank you so much for listening, and may the Squee be with you.